Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody, and welcome inside to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Anthony Hartwig here with you, and our poor buddy Ty. He went too hard at the Fitch game last night, got too excited over their 60-59 win over Canfield, and he lost his voice. So we'll have to venture on without him today, but we still have Gary Allsizer with us, and it is Wrestling Wednesdays with Gary. Gary, how are we doing today?
I'm pretty good. Glad to be back. Last week I had my own little medical issue. Woke up with a swollen eyeball. I got an infection somehow, and I didn't think the YSN viewers wanted to see One-Eyed Willie, so I had to let it heal, but I'm doing better today.
Yeah, we are so happy that you're doing better. But one of the things that we talked about before our kind of before air interview, a lot of wrestling teams are dealing with cancellations and the COVID has hit wrestling hard. Not a lot of results in the last couple of weeks to talk about.
No, I mean, from Brecksville to the Top Gun tournament, just one after the other has been canceled because of COVID. It's spreading. I guess it's really hitting Ohio bad right now, and these schools aren't taking a chance. And it seems to be heading north, heading south. So we're hoping that we can get through the next week to get to our OVAC tournament, our big conference tournament down at Wheeling West Banco Arena next weekend. So we're just hoping to get through this next week until then, as far as from a personal point of view.
Is it safe to say the next couple of weeks might be loaded with dual matches and things that are a lot easier to pull off during a COVID kind of situation? Obviously, a lot harder to bring in multiple teams into one spot when you're dealing with a COVID outbreak.
Yeah, and that was so last year. Yeah, everybody was in the wrestling community was pretty worried, pretty concerned. How are we going to have a season when this is one of the easiest spreading viruses that maybe we've ever seen in a sport where it's 100% not just 100% contact, but you can't compete without touching your opponent. But it went off extremely well last year. In fact, my team did not miss a single practice, a single match, anything. And I know a lot of schools are like that because the mitigations are so much easier to make in wrestling because it is just one-on-one. Football, it's 11-on-11. Basketball, it's 5-on-5. And when they call timeout, what do? They all huddle up with each other. Then they go out and they're, up face-to-face with one of five other guys, or maybe all five guys. And it spread like crazy in basketball, but it did not spread in wrestling because it was one kid versus another kid. They didn't shake hands, which I thought was weird, but they didn't shake the referee's hand. They didn't shake the opponent's hand. And when we were done, we usually make a line. We go through like they do in basketball and baseball where you high five. We didn't do any of that. And it just didn't spread because most teams just did duels. We wrestled 27 duels last year. That is probably 3 years worth of duels, my previous 3 years coaching total. So we wrestled a ton of duels, but it worked out great. If that's what we have to do to keep wrestling, I hope that the state just encourages that rather than us having to, cancel things, honestly.
Yeah, and there aren't a lot of results to talk about in the last couple of weeks, but there are a few. What were some things that caught your eye? I know Beaver Local is still rolling strong, and Ours is over there doing his thing. I think they have a dual match tonight as well. What were some things that did catch your eye in the last couple of weeks about the results that you did happen to see?
Well, I know a couple weeks ago we talked about that Beaver Local Canfield duel was going to happen, and that happened. And Beaver Local rolled. I think they won by like 25 points or so. They seemed to handle that match there. There was a Hopple wrestling tournament at Beaver Local that I think Austintown Fitch won. There really wasn't a lot over the weekend. This past weekend, St. Clairsville had their Best Value In tournament, and I believe a team from out of the area won that. But other than that, there really wasn't a lot going on. It just usually there's like one or two tournaments over the Christmas break, but I just seen less and less of that this year. And I'm just wondering if it's because of COVID, because teams are getting, afraid of the virus spreading, that they're just avoiding those things right now and maybe waiting for things to calm down. But unfortunately, there was not a lot around the area. We had a duel last night, and I think a lot of teams will have some stuff this week coming. But right now, there just wasn't much going on.
Let's talk about your duel last night, since you did have one, and how did that go, and talk about what your team brought to the table.
So we went out to Richmond, Ohio, there in Jefferson County, and we wrestled the Edison, the Wildcats there. We won 39-30. It was a close match. Coach Spencer out there, he's doing a great job rebuilding that program. He wrestled there. He's a 3-time OVAC champion. I believe he's a couple-time OVA state placer. He was a really great wrestler in high school, and he's really got their numbers built up out there. I think they got over 20 kids on their roster. He's just starting from a young team that's inexperienced, and he's really he's doing good things out there. My kids, like we've talked about, I have a senior-laden team. We did very, very well. We only lost one or two matches on the night. We do give up some forfeits because I still got about a third of my team out, hurt, sick, injuries, whatever. But right now we're 2-1 on the season, and heading into this packed middle of the season that we got coming up. We have this OVAC tournament here next weekend. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Wheeling, largest conference tournament in the country. Then we come out of that. We have our own tournament, which we call the Buck Bailey Memorial. Buck Bailey was the biggest Wellsville wrestling supporter that we've ever had. So we decided to honor him by naming the tournament after him. And then we go into the EOWL tournament, the Eastern Ohio Wrestling League, which a couple years ago was considered the hardest and best wrestling league in the state of Ohio. So we got things coming up rolling here. And in between, we have some duels coming up. So we're getting into the meat of our season. And right now, we're just trying to stay healthy and safe from the virus.
And I know we've touched on this before when we were talking about wrestling and the difference between a duel and a tournament. But now that we're probably going to see maybe more duels than tournaments in the next couple of weeks, talk about how the strategy and the mindset changes between when you are preparing for a duel meet like you had last night compared to going to a tournament with a bunch of teams in one spot.
Yeah, it's totally different. It's really, as a coach, it's two different. You just, like you said, two different mindsets and really a couple different strategies. So in a duel, sometimes we'll coach and we'll be coaching in a duel, and we'll be telling our kids, hey, of course we want you to win by points, win by 8 or more, win by 15, or pin them. Those are in that chronological order, from good to best. And then sometimes we'll say, hey, if you're going to lose, don't get pinned. If you're going to lose, don't get tech fall. If you're going to lose, don't get majored, because that's less points that the other team has. So you're thinking about all those things. And as the match goes on, we tell the kids, hey, you might be bumped up one weight class. The state allows you to bump kids up one weight class. If that matchup is better for us, we might do that. It doesn't work like that in a tournament. Your kids weigh in, and then you wrestle whoever is in your pool or in your bracket. And if you lose, you drop to the loser's bracket, or if you're in a pool tournament, you continue to go on until you've wrestled all the matches in your pool. And there is no, try not to get pinned. It's go out there, do whatever you can to win, because you're not just wrestling against one other team. It's a group of teams, 10, 15, or up to over 40, like we have coming up next week. So it's more of a, hey, go out there, do whatever you can to get the win in a tournament. In a duel, it's, hey, we've got this strategy, or I've got things mapped out and I've got some ideas on what may or may not happen. Here's what I need from you. And it's how we'll approach each kid.
This question's coming from Ty. He was able to get me some questions before the show. So still contributing. We appreciate that. He wants to know, coming back from Christmas break, everyone kind of went and did their own thing and probably ate a little bit more food than they should have during Christmas break. What's it like bringing everyone back together after Christmas break, and what are some goals that you think teams have in the first couple of weeks after Christmas break to really get momentum heading into that second half of the season in January, February?
Well, it's just, we have to remember we're dealing with kids here, man. I mean, these are 14 to 18-year-old kids. They just spent a lot of time with their family. They spent a lot of time sleeping in. They spent a lot of time, eating all kinds of great food from their, parents, their grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, whatever. It's just time to get back to focus and get back to remembering what we're here for and what we're trying to do. So trying to just get your mindset back to where it needs to be as far as focusing on what we have. There's my cat, by the way. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys. It's trying to just get our focus back into what we need to do. So, hey, Christmas is over. Break is over. You're sleeping until noon. That's over. It's time to get back focusing on our goals. And for us personally, we've got one thing after another, after another, after another. So we have to get focused right away. And we missed those first 2 weeks of the season. So we're way behind the 8 ball.
One thing, we will never be sad about a cameo from a furry friend. So
his name is Phil, and he's very he needs attention 24/7. So
I love pets with just obscure, those absolutely humanized names. Like, hey, this is Phil.
I almost named him after the Greek pharaoh, or I'm sorry, not Greek, the Roman king Ramses, and he was such a goofball that I just thought that he looked he looks like a tiny panther, and the Spanish word for panther is pantera, and that's a heavy metal band, and their lead singer's name's Phil. So I just figured that would fit him better than anything else.
That's how you get. I love it. So one of the things that I also want to talk about as we venture into the wrestling world, what kind of things, no coach ever wants to deal with injuries. They don't want to see kids get injured, but it does happen in every sport. What are some unique things about handling injuries in wrestling and injury, I guess you could say injury rehab in wrestling? Obviously, you can't spar in practice when you're hurt. So what kind of things can you do if you're rehabbing an injury to try to stay focused when you do get back to wrestling and try to, get your mind right and be as good as possible when you do get back?
Yeah, it's definitely a worry. And I know for us, so my kids, they all know each other very well. They're all experienced. They've all been on the mat a long time. So when we go live in the wrestling room, in other words, we're going to get you into your groups with your weight classes, and we're going to wrestle. We call them meat grinders, where it's ABC, and A and B wrestle, C weights, then C pops in, and we just, they just rotate. We kind of worry there, like, hey guys, if you get into a funny situation, just let go. You can't risk you getting hurt, And with wrestling, sometimes you can get caught up in these really weird, awkward positions where tearing a ligament, spraining something, pulling something is a risk literally every single day. So we have to be careful with those things. We have to, I think I've mentioned this almost every time I've been on here. I got to have my head on a swivel so I can see who's in a bad situation and who's not. Sometimes I'll go running across the room and I'll stop. And I'll grab one kid and tell the other kid, okay, let go and, back up or whatever, because whatever position you're in, this isn't going to end well. So we have to keep them, safe, and we have to keep their minds sharp into thinking this isn't worth it, trying this move. Because when they're practicing, they don't have an individual referee out there like they do on the mat that's watching every single position and making sure that kind of stuff's not happening. But when a kid does get hurt, a lot of times the only thing they could do is maybe some cardio to try to keep their wind up, and they could do maybe some shadow wrestling depending on what the injury is. And all that means is basically by themselves, where they're just going through the moves, going through the motions, putting themselves into the positions of the move, trying to build that muscle memory. And like you said, how do we keep them focused? That can be a challenge for sure. You get a kid who's been busting his butt every day, 3 hours a day in practice, a meat grinder on Saturdays where it's 12 hours of wrestling. From that to nothing, because, hey, I got a sprained knee, I'm out 3 weeks. It can be hard for them to go like that, go 100% every single day to now it's nothing, then go back to that, it can be tough. So we have to be on them in practice, get on the bike, maybe run on the treadmill, run around the wrestling room while we're practicing. Do whatever you can to keep your mind sharp. Pay attention to the moves. Try to do them by yourself if you can, or if you have a buddy that we're not going 100%, they could just let you drill whatever we can to keep their mind sharp. We're trying.
You bring up something that it just popped in my head. It wasn't even a pre-planned question, but learning moves. I mean, obviously wrestling is a very technical sport, and if you do a move the wrong way, you are increasing your likelihood of getting hurt. So when you're learning a move, and especially when you're developing as a wrestler, what kind of ways do you safely learn how to do a move? In gymnastics, when they're learning their skills, they jump into like a bucket of foam boxes, so they're not hurting each other, but they can still feel how their body's supposed to move. So how do you kind of develop a move in wrestling and try to get to the right technique without obviously risking injury by doing the move the wrong way?
Yeah, so I mean, with wrestling, the way you move is you just drill. So just like in basketball, football, whatever you run plays, in wrestling you run drills. So my assistant coach Tim Sarge, he's a great technician. He's one of the best technicians I've ever been around. He knows every move and 3 counters to every move. So he'll show a move, he'll go through it slow, he'll show the kids, then they'll partner up with each other and they'll just go through them slowly while their partner's not giving any resistance, just so they can get the movement down. And then once the move is taught, once they know the move, then we have this section at the beginning of practice, this 45-minute, where we'll just call off moves and say, okay, we're going to go double leg takedowns. Now we're going to go duck unders. Now we're going to go slide bys. Now we're going to go ankle picks. And they'll give them a couple minutes each where they go and they hit that hard with their partner giving them about 50 to 70% resistance while they're hitting it, so they can get the muscle memory down. But they've also got to put some effort and some energy into it. So you can't go 100%, because if the guy knows what move's coming, you're not going to hit it. But if they go 50 to 70%, you can hit it with some resistance and really build that muscle memory and strength as you're doing it. And you got to keep yourself safe. If it's a move like a throw, which is basically exactly what it sounds like, where you're throwing your opponent to his back on the mat and it has to be hard and fast, we tell them, go easy. Tell your opponent what move you're doing, or this is the move we're doing. Bring them down easy. If you're bigger than your guy, don't use your weight, those kind of things.
So you brought a topic to the table that you wanted to kind of talk about, which is wrestlers from the area that have moved on and are going into college and wrestling in college. And one of the first things I want to talk about before we talk about the individuals is the level jump between high school varsity wrestling and then the next level in college. How big is that gap? I think the gap is different in every sport. So how big is the gap between the high school varsity and college? Obviously the gap between high school varsity and Division I, Power 5 is going to be huge. Yeah. But just in general, college to high school, how big is that jump between the skill level and the speed of the game?
I mean, it's obviously a huge jump. So, it's talking about Division I wrestling. So the Big Ten, that's the best college conference in the country for wrestling. So to go from, let's say, a small school, a small Division III high school, to the Big Ten, it's probably equivalent to being a good high school football player, and then you're trying to guard, Justin Jefferson from the Vikings. It's no contest. It would not even be. The levels are ridiculous. But when you get to some of these tournaments, like we talked about the Ironman, there's a lot of Division I guys that wrestled in that future Division I wrestlers that wrestled in that tournament. So sometimes you'll see 2 kids wrestling each other at that high school tournament who may later be wrestling against each other in Division I in a duel, Wisconsin versus Ohio State, or Nebraska versus Minnesota, something like that. That does happen. So depending on what venue you're talking about, what event you're talking about, you may be seeing 2 guys who are already at a Division I level going at it. And sometimes you may be wrestling a guy who could be a starter on a Division I team. So we're from, I'm from Wellsville, right on the Ohio River. I can see West Virginia from my front window. That is Oak Glen School District. There's a kid that just graduated from there 2 years ago. His name's Peyton Hall. He's a starter for West Virginia. He just finished second in the Southern Scuffle, and that's a pretty big NCAA Division I tournament. He was almost an All-American last year. I think he made it to the blood round, which was the match before. If he'd have won, he'd have been a placer. And I think right now he's ranked in the top 10 in the state. We used to see Glenn several times a year. So, I mean, I've had some of my kids have wrestled him. He went out there, he took care of business, but he's right there. He might be an All-American this year. So sometimes that gap, there isn't one, depending on the kid. Because it's an individual sport, you do see that sometimes.
You said Division III, go into that. Have you ever seen someone that happens to go to a Division III school, but he's playing way above Division III level? Like, this kid's going to go Division I college. Have you ever come across someone like that?
Oh, yeah. And there are even so you're talking about in high school Division III to college Division I? Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. There are a lot of guys from smaller schools that go Division I. A couple of years ago, it's probably about 5 years ago now, there was a kid from a Division III school in Ohio who won the state tournament, went undefeated. During the regular season, he pinned the kid who ended up winning the Division I state tournament in that weight class. And then he went on to wrestle for Ohio State, was a couple-time All-American, and if not for COVID, would have been a national champion. So you do see that. And then even sometimes you'll see guys who wrestle for Division II and Division III NCAA schools who are easily good enough to wrestle at D1. About 7 years ago, there was a wrestler for Notre Dame College in Ohio. Now, Notre Dame has a great tradition. They've got a great program, and this kid's name was Joey Davis, and he finished undefeated for his career. He went something like 209-0 at the Division II level. I mean, he blew through everybody. The kid was so ridiculously naturally talented and athletic. He just blew through everyone, and I think he beat something like 15 or 18 NCAA D1 All-Americans during his career at the Division II level. So because we've talked about this, there isn't a professional wrestling league. You can go on to wrestle for the USA. Like I said, there's only a handful, a dozen or 24 guys who make a living doing that. So in this sport, whatever college fits you or wherever fits you best is where you're going to go. So it doesn't sometimes matter the division or the competition. It matters, hey, what's best for me? Maybe Notre Dame College has a great mathematics department and I'm good at math and I got offers from Penn State, but hey, Notre Dame's giving me a full ride. This is going to give me the degree I want. I don't really care that I'm not getting that other competition because my goal isn't to wrestle for USA. It's to become an actuary for some insurance company and make $250,000 a year. So it's just a total different mindset from a lot of sports.
All right, let's talk about some area guys that you've been able to see that are playing at the next level, whatever division they are in. I think I'm always an advocate as no matter what division you're playing in, if someone recruits you to go play in college, you're doing something right because that means they are handpicking you to go and fill up one of their spots. So talk about some of the area kids that have gone on to succeed in the last couple of years at the college level.
Well, the first guy that comes to mind is a kid that graduated from Girard a couple of years ago. His name's Jack Del Garbino. He was a heavyweight in high school. And from a big guy myself, watching this kid wrestle was, it was not only exciting to watch, but he was the smartest wrestler I've ever seen in my life. He now wrestles for Princeton. So that tells you what kind of intelligence this kid has. So he was a Division II state champion with Girard. He just did some of the really smartest things that I've ever seen a heavyweight do on a mat. So he goes to Princeton. His freshman year, I think he redshirted, which would have been last year. And then this year, he's their starter. So they had to wrestle the number one team in the country. That's Princeton's Division I. And they actually have a really good wrestling program. And that's another thing that you see in wrestling that you don't see really in football, definitely not in football, and most years not in basketball, is that some of these Ivy League teams are right up there. Cornell has been a top 10 team for years and years, and Princeton has a really good program. They got a kid named Pat Glory on the team. I think he's ranked second in the country right now. But Jack, they had to wrestle Iowa. So the Hawkeyes are defending national champions, and their heavyweight's name is Tony Cassiope. Big recruit, huge kid. He's probably 6'3" and 275. And last year he had some weight on him. You could see he was a big, strong kid, but he was also just a big, thick kid. And over the summer, he must have cut about 20 pounds of fat and put 10 pounds of muscle on. He looks like an absolute monster right now. So in the press conference before their match with Princeton, the press was asking him, what he thinks about his match with Del Garbino and blah, blah, blah. I don't know exactly, but he basically said, I don't plan on being on the mat long. Well, that came true because Jack pinned him in like 49 seconds. He took Jack down, put him on his back. Jack bridged, rolled out, put him on his back, and then stuck him, and right around a minute, I think. So the video of that, you know how the internet and the social media works. People were splicing that clip where he said he didn't feel like being on the mat for very long, and then he goes out and gets pinned really quick. Has stuck with him. So that was a really, really big win for the Del Garbino kid, and I really hope that he has a good career there, because I think that he is just a really, as far as a heavyweight goes, he's got everything you could ever want.
I love that story, and Del Garbino is a big name in the Girard community. I mean, we remembered him not just on the wrestling team, but he was a pretty dominant force in the football field as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like I say, he's a big, smart kid, and I know the Del Garbinos. There's several of them that have wrestled there, and it's just great to see a kid like that having success. West Virginia, WVU has done a really good job with recruiting in this area. They got a couple Louisville kids on their team, and one of them right now, I believe, is Garrett Lotzenhauser. He was a state champion for them, and I think that he wrestles the 133-pound weight. I think he's their starter now, and I think there are a couple of other kids from Louisville on that team as well. So those are the first couple guys that really come to mind when I think about the local area and guys who went on and moved on to the next level. We also see a lot of guys. There was a lot of 2 or 3 Canfield guys that went to Cleveland State recently. Steubenville Big Red, which I don't think they're in the YSN network yet. They've got kids at North Carolina State. Like we said, the Ours kid is going to Wyoming. Mount Union's going to have guys from around here all the time. Mount Union has a really, really great wrestling program as well. And I believe the last time I checked, last time I read up on this, you have a better chance of wrestling in high school and going to college with a wrestling scholarship than you do any other boys sport. If my memory of this NFHS stat is correct.
Is that because there's a bigger scholarship to wrestler ratio where there's more for the lower number of participants, or is that just one of the things that works out that way?
Well, so I'm not sure how it works with other sports, but in wrestling, you get 9.9 full scholarships the NCAA allows you to hand out. So with those 9.9, there's only 10 weight classes in college wrestling. So that, I'm sure that helps. But I think what a lot of teams do is they'll split those scholarships up. So they'll have kids. So like at Penn State is a ridiculous college program. They have Cale Sanderson as their head coach. He's an undefeated college wrestler in NCAA Division I, and he is absolutely the epitome of folk style wrestling, which is the wrestling that we compete in high school. He is a master recruiter. In fact, he was such an amazing wrestler that he really helped expand the sport, but he might even be a better coach. And I can't even believe I'm saying that, because you don't see guys in other sports who are great at the sport and then become just as great, if not a better player. Randy Moss isn't an NFL head coach. Michael Jordan, that didn't work out for him. But Cale, I don't know what it is with that guy. He's got the mindset of wrestling mastered. So he pulls in these recruits. And how he gets them to stay and not get full scholarships, I don't know. But I know he talks to his guys about, hey, do you mind if I share your scholarship with this kid? He really wants to come and wrestle for us, but he needs help with his, finances. He's figured out a way. And I'll tell you what, he's got All-Americans sitting on the bench there. So I think that maybe splitting up those scholarships might help. And the fact that there's only 10 spots to fill, that probably helps too. So, yeah, you're probably right. That's probably it, because there's a lot less people that wrestle than play basketball. So there's about, let's say, 300,000 USA high school kids that wrestle, whereas there's about 1.2 million US high school kids that play basketball. So I'm sure that has something to do with it as well.
All right, before we get you out of here, there is a result that I want to talk about. It happened a couple of weeks ago, and it was at United Wrestling Program. So a program that we talked about the last time you were on, because they continue to impress in their level of wrestling. Dakota McCracken became the first female wrestler in the United Wrestling Program to win a tournament, and last season she was the first female wrestler to win by pin at the United program, which brings into the conversation female wrestling and girls in wrestling in the high school level or college level, and how it's grown over the years. And from your perspective, what you've seen, the growth of letting females into wrestling and it not becoming as taboo as it used to. Old movies would have like the joke about the girl looking across and seeing the guy wrestling, and the guy goes, "How much does the wrestle? What do I touch?" Stuff like that. It's not kind of taboo anymore. Talk about what you've seen from the growth of the sport and how now it's pretty much if you can do it, you're going to be on the team.
Oh, it's probably been one of the best things that's happened to high school wrestling in the last decade or two is just the growth of female wrestling. Now, they've always been able to wrestle. Even when I was growing up, we would see every once in a while a team would have a girl on the team, but it would be very, very rare. Today, most teams have a couple of girls on the team. Whether, between the junior high and the high school, most places have one or two, and some of them have more. There are even schools like Minerva who has a whole entire traveling female team, and there's a couple of other teams that do the same thing. 2 years ago, I was at the state wrestling tournament in Columbus, and Miami East, I believe is the high school, had a female wrestler named Olivia Shore. She was ranked in the top 6 or 8 in the state. She wrestled the 106-pound weight class. And when I tell you this, I'm not joking. She had got the loudest roar I have ever heard in my entire life at any wrestling match for anything when she was wrestling. She wrestled and won her first match. You have to win 2 matches at the state tournament to place. And then she lost her next match. And then the following match after that is what we call the blood round. That is, if you win in that round, you're a state placer. You win in that round, you're a state qualifier. You win in that round, you're a whatever tournament placer. In that match, she ended up losing in overtime. She got up, she waved, walked around the mat, waved to each side of the stands, and everybody, 25,000 people got up and started clapping for her. The only way that would be possible is if this state and this country has finally taken female and girls wrestling serious. And it was just a great sight to see that many people knew who she was watching that match, because there are 8 mats, and that you've got state-ranked future state champions, future NCAA Division I All-Americans wrestling. Nobody was paying attention to that match. They were watching Olivia Shore. It has been, and she especially has helped get the word out for female wrestling. And we are seeing it grow and grow and grow. Now there's a girls' state tournament finally, and there are girls that are wrestling in all girls tournaments. I've seen at least 2 this year, the one the United girls wrestled in, and I've seen one more. It has been such a really big boon to the sport. It's helped increase the numbers in a time which we talked about before, since the economic collapse of 2008, that really took a damper and hampered this sport. So I think it's great. I hope that it just continues to grow and to grow and to grow, because if you think about it, it's been looked at as a male-dominated sport. So outside of basketball and cheerleading and now bowling, I guess, there really isn't a lot for girls to do in the winter. So if they weren't doing one of those other things, it's nice that they have this option. And I'll tell you, the more that these girls see other girls wrestling, the more that they think, hey, I could do that. And I think that it's going to snowball. And like I talked about before, Coach Bo Marriage there in United, he's doing a fantastic job. And hey, I'll be rooting for them guys. Congratulations to the McCracken girl. She's got an older brother that I think he's older anyway, that's doing really well for United, just being a couple-year wrestler.
This is something that Ty wanted to know, and he once again contributing still, even though his voice is gone. And you talked about it a little bit. When you were in high school, it was still allowed, but it was a lot more rare. So just go a little bit deeper into comparing, seeing a girl wrestle while you were in a player, or even 10 or 15, 20 years ago, and then compare it to now and the differences, and some of the differences in the wrestling community, and differences in the coaches' mindsets, the players' mindsets. I feel like one of the big reasons why it's grown so much is the male wrestlers have accepted it, and they don't feel it taboo anymore. So they are able to go out and just compete, whether you're a girl or a boy across from them.
Yeah, it's in the wrestling community. No one even thinks about it anymore. If it's a female wrestler, it's a female wrestler. You don't coach them different. The only way you would coach them different is if you've seen that they do something, they have a go-to move or something like that you tell your kid to watch out for, but have nothing to do with the gender. But the difference between back then and now is night and day. Back, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, you would not have seen a girl make it to the state tournament first off, and then be able that close to place. By the way, Olivia Shore placed. She was a state placer the following year at the state tournament. So you would not have seen that ever back in the day. And now it's becoming more and more and more common. And as far as the girls getting out there and wrestling, it used to be in the past, if a male wrestler lost to a female wrestler, they took it hard. It was rough for them mentally. Today, it doesn't matter. I mean, nobody cares if you lose to a girl now because they're getting better and better. They usually wrestle at the lighter weight classes. And at those lighter weight classes, physically, they can compete a lot better. So it's just the only thing that I ever tell my kids is, hey, she's going to be more flexible than you probably. So you need to, keep your mind on that. It's a lot hard, at least in the girls that we wrestle, it's a lot harder to hit certain moves because they can just bend in certain ways that most boys don't. Most boys are stiff. And if you get their body going in one direction, they're going to go there. And it doesn't usually work like that with females. You got to try a lot harder to finish moves.
Yeah, and you don't coach them mentally different, but there are physical differences, like you said. So I'm sure if you're coaching a female wrestler, you're using those to your advantage.
Yeah, and they also seem to have better gas tanks too, if I'm being completely transparent here. So I guess there are a little bit of differences, but they work in their favor. And it's super exciting to see, and I just hope it continues. And the state of Ohio has finally started to embrace it with this state tournament and recognizing that, the all girls wrestling. And there was a list of how many there were. There are like 12,000 kids that wrestle in Ohio, 10 to 12,000. There's probably about 1,500 girls now, which is that number could be off, but it's probably something like that, 1,000, I would bet.
Let's do the math real quick just to see like what percentage that is.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that number real quick while you're doing that, because it's an interesting question, and it's one that
if it's 15,000 for 12,000, that's like 13%, which is pretty good.
Yeah,
if you round up.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I just expect that number to continue to go on and on and on. Okay, so there's only 6 states which have sanctioned girls wrestling in high school. So that used to be like 1 or 2. Now it's 6. And I believe the number 1 state is Texas. It's growing big time. The sport itself is growing big time in the South. And I believe Texas and California, obviously those are 2 of the biggest states in the country. But
just to clarify, saying that means that there is a specific like girls wrestling. Not saying that only 6 states allow females to wrestle on a team. It's just like Ohio, there is a girls state championship. There's a girls.
So the OHSAA, the Ohio High School Athletic Association, that is the governing body of state high school sports in Ohio. They recognize girls wrestling as an actual sport with their own state tournament, and 6 other states now do the same thing. That's all it means. It didn't mean that they weren't allowed to. They could always wrestled. They could always went to the regular sectional tournament. Now they're going to have that for just girls.
Right. So before we let you go, what are some things coming up in the wrestling area that wrestling fans in the Ysn Nation should keep their eye on as far as tournaments, duels, big matchups, and things like that in the next week before we have you on again?
Just personally, I'm just going to talk about the Ovac tournament. It's a great tournament. I think that it's around 50 years old now. Over 40 schools from Ohio and West Virginia here in the Panhandle, northeastern, eastern Ohio, and the northern Panhandle of West Virginia. That's where our focus will be. The finals are televised live on Channel 9 out of Steubenville. They place the top 8 kids in each weight class. It's a 3-day grinder of a tournament. We go down on next Thursday night, and we'll be there through Saturday night. So that's definitely what we'll be looking forward to here in this next week. And then after that, the EOWL Wrestling Tournament, Eastern Ohio Wrestling League. There are some great wrestling in that. You got Division I schools, which the biggest schools there would be like Austintown, Fitch, Boardman, Lake High School. Those schools have about 400 kids in each grade. And I believe Wellsville, we are the smallest school in the league with about 55 kids per grade. So you see all different schools of all different sizes and a lot of great wrestling. Just so last year, then the last couple of years, there were probably, the Del Garbino kid went Division I. A couple of those kids from Louisville went Division I to wrestle. Ours is going Division I. Cole McComas from Beaver Local wrestles for Ryder now. I believe he starts for them. That's a Division I school. You're seeing a whole lot of really good wrestlers in that EOWL wrestling tournament that will be coming up here at the end of the month.
We are definitely excited for all of that. We're excited for next week getting to talk to you again. And hopefully the teams are able to get a little back on track. We'll have more results to talk about next week as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me back, and sorry about the eye incident. Hopefully that stays away, and I'm going to put my cat on a leash next time, or maybe I'll just let him sit right beside me.
Yeah,
whatever you guys want.
Let Phil chill. We love to have him. Gary, thank you again for coming on, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, brother. Thank you.
As for us on Running Point, we're going to take our first break of the day. And when we come back, we will deal with our recaps and talk about last night's actions. We'll also go over the picks for tonight. Ty was able to submit picks before the show, so he's still going to be competing. We're tied, so we'll have to see if we split it all tonight or not. And we'll go into our picks and our recaps next on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring. And, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Every one of our vehicles has undergone our own 126-point inspection, so it passes the most important inspection, yours. No other dealership has the extra inventory, gives you extra for your trade, and goes the extra mile for you. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the four words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
For a great vehicle and a great experience, come to Boardman Mitsubishi today. As always, our full lineup of Mitsubishi models comes with a standard 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Boardman Mitsubishi, your hometown Mitsubishi dealer since 1999.
Coca's Pizza, always supporting our community and our local athletes. Stop in on game day or score big and have it delivered right to your door. Check out our daily specials at cocaspizza.com. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
At Hubbard Chevrolet, Hubbard can help you get the financing you need, regardless of your situation. I'm Tony Page, and I've helped thousands of customers in Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania buy a vehicle. Visit HubbardChevy.com to get pre-approved. Remember, folks, Hubbard can help.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig with you, and usually brought Ty Bartel along with me, but as I have said before, if you are just tuning in, Ty went a little bit too crazy last night at the Austintown Fitch game. Obviously, Fitch with the exciting 60-59 victory, and you know Ty, when he does games, he is always at a 10. He lost his voice, so he wasn't able to do the show today. Still contributed, gave us some good questions for Gary, and maybe we'll see him in the comments section here soon as we talk about results from last night. And we'll start with his game as Austintown Fitch won 60-59. Ty, before he lost his voice, was able to catch up with head coach of the Falcons, Brian Beanie, after their win. Let's hear what he had to say in his post-game press conference for Austintown Fitch's win over Canfield.
Welcome back, everyone. Ty Bartel here with winning coach Brian Beanie, 60-59 over the Canfield Cardinals. And coach, we were talking a little bit about these kind of games prior to, and we say you can't win the conference this early, but you sure as heck can lose it. How important is opening up conference play like this and getting a win against a team like Canfield stature?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, 60-59, that's not a shocker. I mean, we almost every game we played this year has been 6 points and under. So, you know what? I tell you what, it's nerve-wracking. It ages me by a lot, but it builds character for the kids too. I mean, they've been put in every situation, whether we're up and we have to hold the lead, or we're down, we have to come back. It's not what we want for every game. It'd be nice to sit back and just kind of, coast through the fourth quarter maybe, but we know that's not going to happen. So many teams are evenly matched, just a matter of who makes the most plays and, basically who makes the least amount of mistakes at critical times.
What does it speak to the defense, though, to have back-to-back games like this where, like you said, basketball is a game of runs, so we expect runs and counter runs, but to be able to hold on and just barely come out with 2 victories, what does that do for the team's confidence on defensive sides?
Well, I mean, defensively, we know it doesn't really matter who we play. We can defend basically anybody outside the perimeter. Obviously if a team's bigger than us, inside, but our guys work their butts off inside, and sometimes it's just hard to overcome a size differential. But overall it's we got some stops when needed, but most importantly, looking at the book here, we were 10 of 15 from the line, which, we were 1, 2, 3, 4, we were 5 of 6 in the fourth. So we made some big free throws down the stretch, which is awesome because there's 2 games that we kind of let slip through because of free throws. So proud of the guys for that. We knew it wasn't going to be easy. I mean, the way they can shoot the 3 and as many threes as they shoot, like I told you in the pregame, you can be up and in the blink of an eye, you can be down with the way they shoot it. So, to say this is unexpected is, I knew this was going to be close. I wish it wasn't this close.
Talking about 2 players in particular, and Alan Underwood and Deshaun Vaughan, getting into a little bit of foul trouble at some point during the game.
Yeah.
What does it speak to you on them? Obviously, Alan, a senior, but Deshaun, one of those sophomores, when you need them to kind of play hands-off defense and you need to try to keep them and get that quality minutes. Is that something that you were talking about, and how impressed are you with the effort of them playing that kind of hands-off defense?
Well, this was really the first game this year that we had to sit one of them in the first half because he had 3 fouls. Usually, if one of those guys has 2, we just let him run with it a little bit. But with 3 fouls, you got to be cautious, and we took him out. So that hurt in the first half, not having him out there. Deshaun had 2, and then he played smart for the most part with 2 fouls. But those guys know how to play with and without fouls, so it's not that big a concern. But they did a nice job in the second half playing with those fouls.
Talking about Deshaun too, we know tonight it just seemed like for him he was living in the moment tonight, and he was enjoying the crowd that was around him. How big is it when you have that guy, kind of like what we said, that Todd Simon stature, when you need him to go out and get a bucket? It seems like they were good for it. Deshaun certainly seemed good for a few threes when you needed them.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his stats there, he had 6 threes, 3 twos. He probably would like to shoot better from the line. He was only 3 of 7, but 27 points. He's really good. I mean, doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Whether you're scouting us or you're sitting in the stands, like, he's good. He's going to be one of the best 2 players on the court every single time, and he can make things happen. There's no doubt about it. But Alan Underwood was 16. He's right about his average for the year. Devin Sherwood hits a big 3, 2 for 2 from the line. So it's every team's got to have a couple studs for sure. We got a couple, and we got other guys that are, really play their part as well.
Looking at the rest of your schedule, we know the next 3 is still staying in the AAC. It's all AAC play to open up for first 4 games of the new year. You're going to Boardman as of right now on Friday.
Sure.
What are you expecting from the Spartans this year, and how do you continue to keep this train rolling?
Well, I mean, the last 3-4 years, Boardman's had the luxury of having 2 kids over 6'5". One of them has graduated, very good player. So they're not as big as they've been in the past, but they still have another. DePietro's back; he's 6'5", 6'6". So they still have one guy back. It's going to be another game like at Canfield. I mean, Boardman can shoot the 3 here. I really haven't paid much attention to them, just their scores. I'll start scouting them tonight. But no, I expect it to be another. Why wouldn't it be a close game?
Yeah, no doubt. Whenever you put Boardman and Fitch in the same sentence, it always seems like it is. You could catch that game at Boardman Friday, January 7th. It's going to be Fitch versus Boardman. Catch Coach Beanie and the Falcons there. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you.
That was Ty Bartell catching up with Austintown Fitch head coach Brian Beanie. We definitely thank Ty for continuing to contribute to the show, even though he can't be on it today. It was a big game, and I love that Coach brought up the free throw shooting, because if you watched down the stretch, Austintown Fitch hit 2 free throws in the final seconds of that game that really clinched it, because McElroy came down and hit a buzzer beater 3 for Canfield, but it would have tied the game or taken the lead if Fitch didn't hit 2 free throws to make it a 4-point game. So those were big, and those ended up being the game-winning free throws, of course, because McElroy hit the buzzer beater 3 on the other end to make it 60-59. Austintown Fitch getting the win in the AAC, and it also got Ty up and tied with me. So as far as our pick'ems go, we'll go to our pick'ems from tonight's game in a little bit. Let's continue our results from the night before. Let's go with the girls. There was one girls game last night. Crestview was in the boys-girls doubleheader, and the Crestview Lady Rebels beat Newton Falls 32-19. 4 straight victories for Crestview. They are starting to roll. And now let's go back to the boys' scores. As I was in Jackson Milton, Waterloo got the win over the Blue Jays 62-44. And you'll look at this game, and it was one of those ones where you look back on it and you can't really think of a turning point or a decisive factor, because really it was a game that Waterloo had control over from the jump. Luke Simons did a really good job from the perimeter and attacking the hoop. Waterloo, they might have one win on the season this year. That was their first against Jackson Milton, but man, they've been competitive against good teams. They've lost some leads late. They were up on Western Reserve, I believe, by 5 points with about 40 seconds to go, and ended up losing that game by 1. So they finally find a way to get a win. They dominate this game against Jackson Milton. Luke Simons led the way, 16 points for him. He had foul trouble, 3 fouls in the first half. He was able to come back in the second, play smart defense as well, and I believe he didn't pick up that 4th foul. So he played a really great game. Navarro Allison also very good for Waterloo. He gave them great ball handling against Jackson Milton's press towards the end. There was one moment where it looked like Jackson Milton might be able to get back in the game, and it was because of Ryan and Aaron Romai, who are very good players for the Blue Jays. They both shot pretty well in the second half and gave Jackson Milton enough offense where Waterloo never ran away with the game and never got out of hand. Jackson Milton cut it to 12. But Waterloo, man, they were able to keep their foot on the gas. They win once again, 62-44, their first win of the season. Mineral Ridge, they got the strong win over Sebring in the MVAC Scarleteer, 58-39. You look at Poland, they took care of South Range, ran away from the Raiders, 61-44. They get a lot more offense than they got against Boardman their last time out, where we saw that game end 28-26 in the Bulldogs' favor. Liberty, they continue to impress. The boys team gets the win at Garfield, 65-57. And I think maybe there might be some respect on Liberty's name on the boys' side, maybe in the next couple of power rankings. They continue to win. James Davis continues to be impressive. Venters is also a very good player, always chips in about 10 points per. So Liberty, despite losing to a very good Struthers team by 2 points last week, they bounce back, get the win at Garfield, and that final score was 65-57. Girard, they continue this turnaround season. Remember, the Indians last year, 3 wins, and they are cruising this year in the NE8. They get the win over Hubbard, 56-42, to continue this turnaround season. Great job by Coach Hannon with these kids to bring it back almost the same roster and get vastly different results. LeBray, they loom large over Brookfield, 66-41. They look like a different team now that they have their full roster back. I remember seeing them against Poland in that United Way Classic, and they were missing a couple of starters. And they definitely just look like a different team now that they have Aiden Stevens back in that lineup, and they continue to roll 66-41 over Brookfield. East Liverpool, they dealt with some adversity. Salem really fought them hard, but they get the win 66-50 over the Quakers. Players like Cole Daly had a great game again, and East Liverpool continues to prove why they are the unanimous number 1 team in the YSN power rankings. You look at Wellsville, they got the 85-55 win over East Palestine. The Tigers flexing their muscles inside the EOAC. JFK, 81-63, a high-scoring affair, but they get the win over Heartland Christian and move to get their second win of the season. Valley Christian, they managed to get the win inside the EOAC, 49-27 over Latonia. Lisbon looks super impressive at Southern Local as they go to Salineville and get the 59-46 win over the Indians. Boardman, are they back? Maybe. They bounce back off of that 28-26 loss to Poland, and they get the 65-47 win over a good Howland Tigers team that is in the power rankings. So we might see Boardman make a trip back into the top 10 next week. You'll have to stay tuned for next week's power rankings to see. Cheney and Mooney, maybe the marquee game of the night. Mooney ran away with it. They were absolutely the better team in that court. They proved it every step of the way. They get the 50-38 win over the Cowboys, and the Cowboys lose their second in a row. They lost before Christmas to Medina, and now they lose here to Cardinal Mooney. We talked about Fitch. They got the 60-59 win over Canfield. Columbiana, they pulled away from United 55-44. They get the win. Badger, they get the close win over Conneaut. This was a game that was scheduled on the fly. Badger was supposed to play Wyndham. That game got axed, so they picked up Conneaut, and they win 72-68. One more score to get to as we look it up real quick. As Crestview and Newton Falls, the Rebels were able to play in the boys-girls doubleheader last night. And you look at the score. Hang on, I lost it for a minute. Score for that game was 51-41, Newton Falls gets the win over Crestview. Sorry for that delay, but so Newton Falls splits the boys-girls doubleheader. Crestview gets the win on the girls' side. Newton Falls gets the 51-41 win on the boys' side, and they continue to add respect to the reigning MVAC grade tier champions. We talked to their coach before the season, and that was kind of the goal this year. He knew that everyone had this expectation that Newton Falls was going to be down, and maybe it was going to be an opportunity for other teams to take the MVAC, but not so fast. The Tigers still have some bite to them as they win over Crestview. Let's get to our picks real quick, then we'll take a break and get to Scotty Mincher in the studio. So our picks, just 5 games on the network tonight. I want to remind everyone that East versus Cheney has been canceled. These are all girls' games, and the first one will be DJ Oakley on the call in Salem as the Mighty Quakers that are 10-1 and number 1 in the power rankings look to stay there as they battle an Alliance team that is improved from years past. This is an Alliance team that had 3 combined wins in the last 3 seasons. They have 4 wins to this year, so more wins this season than they've had in the last 3 combined. But the Lions, the Aviators, still have not won an EBC game since 2010. They'll look to correct that. Earlier, one of the big marquee wins for them this year, they were able to win 2 games in the same day as they played down in they beat Ravenna and Akron Springfield in the same day. Pretty impressive offensive outputs, over 65 points in both those games. Might be a different story against Salem, who's been holding almost everybody down. They've only let one team get above 45 points this year, and that was Howland in the first game of the season. Boardman will go to Canfield. Eric Hughes is going to be on the call for that one, as that one is well, actually, we'll go back to the picks. I'm sorry. Me and Ty both picked Salem for that game against Alliance. Boardman at Canfield, 7 p.m. Eric Hughes is going to be on the call. Me and Ty, we both are on the Canfield bandwagon. They're going to bounce back, we think. So this one's a big one. The EBC might be the marquee matchup of the night. Marlington traveling to West Branch. Me and Ty split on this one. So someone's going to take back the lead. I pick West Branch, rocking the banner as always. And Ty plays the villain. He takes Marlington. Ursuline versus Cardinal Mooney. This one will be called by Ian O'Brien at 7 o'clock. And me and Ty both pick Mooney. Warren Harding at Fitch. This one will be on the air, but no audio, as Ty Bartell is still going to go to Fitch and set up the camera and record it. But obviously, without a voice, he's unable to call the game. Warren Harding and Fitch, we both pick Fitch. So it'll still be on the network, and 7 p.m. tip will be the go time. So those are our picks. Only 5 games on the network tonight, but all 5 games that are happening in YSN Nation are covered. So everything's green for our schedule, and we are definitely happy to bring it to you on YSN. We are going to take another quick break on the Running Point, and when we get back, we'll have Scotty Mincher in the studio live on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Working with your family can be stressful at times, but because they're family, you know that you're going to get a loving, honest answer, even when things don't make sense to any problem. Dealing with Medicare can be confusing and overwhelming. That's why here at Myers Family Insurance, we do our best to give you honest and caring answers to all of your questions. Family, like Medicare, isn't always perfect, but when you put others first, the results can be amazing.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online,
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
on social media, and on our app.
Notice we'll have scattered showers on Thursday.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Jimmy Sugman here, Director of Isle, Purple Cat, and Golden String. We are happy to support YSN and two of my favorite people, Scotty Mincher and Super Dave O'Malley. We are an agency that provides services for adults with disabilities. We infuse humor, passion, and joy into their lives. If you know of any folks with disabilities that need our assistance, please contact us.
Your teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Dealing with Medicare can be confusing and overwhelming. That's why here at Myers Family Insurance, we do our best to give you honest and caring answers to all of your questions. Family, like Medicare, isn't always perfect, but when you put others first, the results can be amazing.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, and look who came sashaying into the studio.
It is great to be here as always, and I must say I've never been a Tennessee fan, but my favorite color is orange, so I'm loving your get up, Anthony.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a perfect segue into why I'm running Tennessee today. It is Aaron Gabriel's birthday, good friend of mine, Poland graduate, who went on to play softball at Tennessee. So I figured, hey, happy birthday, Aaron. I'll rock the orange for you. And I hope you have a great day if you're out there listening. Scotty, what is up with you? I haven't seen you in a couple weeks. I was calling a game last week. You did the show with Ty.
Yeah, I did. And it's a shame because I got him a couple times last week.
Although he claims you only got him once. He said it was 4 questions. He got 3. You got 1. Is he lying to me? Because when I asked him what to update the score, he said it was 3-1 him. Is he pulling a fast one?
I feel like there was another part to the question that he didn't. He may be right. I feel like it was maybe 4-1.
Ty, if you're out there listening, man, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
We're going to have to review the tapes.
I feel like he's...
You going to pull the challenge flag?
Shorting me one, yeah. I'm getting at least challenged.
Man, he's pulling the challenge flag. It might be 4-2. It might be 3-2 last week.
Yeah. I know I got him good with at least once, and it's a shame because I felt like today I had a few in the holster that would definitely stumble. But it's good to see you back, Anthony, and be back on with you. Thanks for having me as always.
Oh, we love having you, Scotty, and I would offer to answer trivia questions, but I am not a robot. And while I am strong in some other trivia attributes, Ty seems very inept not inept is a bad word, very keen in sports history, which is not one of my strong suits. Obviously, if you asked me to name the starting five of the 1982 Lakers, Ty would be able to do it. I would not.
Yeah.
If you asked me, like, who got assassinated to kick off World War I would know that. Archduke Ferdinand. But if you ask me,
So you're saying you're a history buff, huh?
I just pulled out a random fact that I knew I could get on the spot. I mean, what I do well in Jeopardy is, like, if it's a history, I'm pretty good at it, especially if it's like, if they come up with like, hey, we're going to do French literature history, I'm like, pop culture stuff, pretty good at like the Greek mythology when it's those kind of questions, because I had several Greek mythology classes in college, so that's a random category that I always do pretty well in Jeopardy in, which actually pops up quite a bit.
Do you know I have it's sports, I guess, / pop culture.
Uh-oh.
It's I know you said you're not good at trivia, but I'm wondering if
I thought I was until I ran into Ty and heard the questions that he answers, and I'm like, I suck at trivia.
Yeah, I'm wondering if
I'm like a go to a bar and have like your trivia night in the bar kind of guy, not like let's do like deep in-depth questions like Ty. But like, continue. I keep interrupting your thoughts.
I was just saying, everybody knows, and this year they played the first ever Field of Dreams game.
Yeah.
And to most people, or I shouldn't say most, a lot of people, it's their favorite baseball movie, and if it's not their favorite, it's up there as one of the favorite baseball movies, or just sports movies in general. But my question to you, Anthony, is, can you name the two extras that they're also both actors in the crowd during the game when
Holy
James
smokes.
Earl Jones and Kevin Costner went to Fenway Park?
See, you caught me, because Field of Dreams is not my favorite baseball movie or sports movie. Like, I've seen it maybe a couple of times, but like, it's not one that I watch religiously like some other baseball fans that think it is the best. Like, I'm a sucker for Angels in the Outfield. That's my favorite baseball movie, absolutely, hands down.
That is a great one. Danny Glover and young Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
The end, no matter how many times I've seen it, the end always just gives me chills and gets a little tear in my eye when he adopts the spoiler alert. Sorry if you haven't seen it by now. It was released in like 1996.
Yeah.
But when Danny Glover adopts the two kids, I'm always like, because they make you think that JP's not going to get adopted, and he's like, no, JP's coming too.
Yeah,
I love JP.
It was such a Disney ending.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah. Disney's always like that. It's like, hey, one, parents are never alive in Disney movies, so of course the two kids are orphans, and they have the Disney ending. So
Yeah.
if you're a parent in a Disney movie, watch out, because you ain't gonna be around long,
or
you're not gonna be non-existent.
I don't know if it's just you, but I feel like Christopher Lloyd, obviously, he's famous because he was in the Back to the Future as Doc Brown too, and also he was in like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is from the 70s,
that's
I
way
believe,
back.
with Jack. But I feel like Christopher Lloyd's looked the same like forever.
Oh, he's got
like
he's you could see him. That's Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
And I loved him in that role.
But
sound-
I'll give you a hint, Anthony, about
Give me a
this
hint. Maybe if you give me like
question.
maybe I can get the actors based on like movies they've been in or roles they or something like that.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. One of the actors. It's actually 2 hints I'm gonna give you, so I'm really throwing you a bone.
Yeah,
here.
you better. I'm not Ty.
One of the actors has played Batman before, and the other hint is they're both best friends.
Well, let's see. The Batmans were. Let's see. It started off with Michael Keaton. Val Kilmer played Batman. George Clooney played Batman. It's too old to be Christian Bale. Best friends. One of them played Batman, and the other one, no hint other than it's the other guy's best friend. Right? That what we're going with. Val Kilmer doesn't have any friends.
Okay, this is the last. This is the last hint I'll give you. They won an Academy Award together for their first movie for the screenplay.
Oh no! Okay, so it's got to be Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
It is. They were the extras.
They won it for
Good
Will
Will
Hunting.
Yes, you got it.
See, if you
Too many hints.
Give me the right hint, I'll get it. But
Yeah.
I never thought Ben Affleck, like, he must have been young then.
Yeah,
Right? Because it's an oldish movie.
Yeah, they were both. I want to say they were probably like 17 or 18 at the time.
I'm out here thinking it's like George Clooney, who was arguably the worst Batman that we've ever seen. And he'll admit it, like he publicly apologizes for that Batman movie.
Yeah, I saw a little teaser. I meant to go watch the latest, the Robert Pattinson.
Now we have a Twilight vampire as Batman.
Yeah,
Great.
It seems like they're trying to take the grittiness of it to another level or something.
I don't know. Like, do we really need another Batman franchise?
Yeah, it's like
Good luck topping Christopher Nolan. That's all I have to say. But this is derailed.
Yeah,
without Ty, we have no guardrails here.
Yeah. I mean, that was sports connected.
It was
the Dreams thing.
Then we went off on a Batman tangent a little bit.
Yeah.
What about, I know you keep up with what Ysn is doing, and you keep up with all the teams. Basketball wise, last time I was on, you asked about a couple of basketball teams. Now we're further into the season. Some teams have lost big games. Some teams are starting to put their best foot forward. What teams have you seen that have really caught your eye?
And it's funny. It's like I think maybe because we're both in wheelchairs, we have telepathic powers or something. Because I was just gonna get into that with you, Anthony. And watching the Power Hour from yesterday, I just wanted to talk about a couple of teams that have really impressed me, and from what I've seen so far. And DJ, I believe, a few weeks back mentioned this program a couple weeks ago on the Power Hour.
I was out there for that conversation, the underrated program.
Yeah,
I wish I could have been a part of that.
I believe this is one of the schools he mentioned, and it is for the girls. It is Salem, the Salem Quakers.
Look, the Salem like every week I go, well, okay, Salem's playing this team. Their defense is going to be really tested tonight. And then they'll look at the score, and it's like the offense only scores 27 points. That defense they're running at Salem is undoubtedly the best defense in the area, period. They have only let one team, I believe, because I don't think Marlington beat them, but I don't think they scored more than 45. I could be wrong. But one or two teams score above 45 points. They've held 6 teams under 25. under 30, excuse me. This is just a defense that is extremely hard to score again because they are fast. They are one of the fastest teams I've seen in the area. They are much faster than they were last year, and they ran a pretty good defense last year, but now they are running the floor. It is almost impossible to transition against them. They rotate extremely well on defense, and that's why their ball pressure is so tight too. They do it mostly without fouling. They're just a really good defensive team that's going to be hard-pressed to find teams that are able to score against them. Now, offensively, they don't have that go playmaker that's going to be like, hey, you take the ball, you go score 20, and you lift this team up. But what they do have are players that can hit shots that are big clutch shots in big situations. We saw it in Canfield, Jenna McClish, who, by the way, won Baird Brothers Big Dog of the Valley, and we'll be talking to her tomorrow on Running Point. But Jenna McClish, she hit those 2 free throws to really seal that game. They hit big shots in big situations. So maybe overall their offense, not world beaters, but they have kids that know how to make game-winning plays, which we've seen a lot of teams struggle with.
Yeah, they definitely do from what I've seen. I also, in just following the girls' action, and I do want to get to the boys in a little bit too, but just talking about exclusively the girls' action, I wanted to talk about a school that, I have a big family, so many of my cousins went to this school. A couple played football, and they had decent years. But on the hardwood, the Poland girls, and specifically the win over Canfield, I was really impressed with that, I have to say.
You picked the team that I cover a lot, so this is great. You're going right into my wheelhouse. Poland, everyone this year outside of Poland was saying they lost Jackie Grisdale. Now, what are they going to do? That she scored like 80% of their points last year. But what they continue to do and what they've done, even when they had Jackie Grisdale, when they had players like Sarah Burry, they continue to do everything the right way. They play a solid team basketball, and they've come out and they've done it this year too. It's a balanced scoring offense. It's someone different every night. It's extremely good disciplined defense, and they just play this unbelievably unionized style of basketball. It's hard to beat. I don't know how you would scout Poland's offense because it's not one player that can just take off and score like Jackie Grisdale was last year. Last year was kind of easy. You shut down Jackie Grisdale, easier said than done. She's a D1 basketball player. But if you shut down Jackie Grisdale, you can slow down their offense. Now you go into a game saying, well, Connie Hugrish can shoot pretty well from 3. Abby Farber hits big shots. Mary Brand hits big shots. You got Katie McDonald down low. You got Morgan Kluchar who's driving from the elbow. What do you take away? It's
like pick your poison.
Right. And when they play the defense, they do. And now what I think Katie McDonald adds, which is something that they've lacked for a while, some serious size down low. You could argue that they were one post away from going to a state tournament in Sarah Burry's senior season when they went and they lost the regional finals to Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary. I mean, the only reason, in my opinion, they lost that game is because the Irish had about 3 girls that were 6'3" and just wore them down on the boards. And Poland still had chances to pull away and win that game. A couple of missed layups on transition really hurt them. But imagine if that team had a Katie McDonald that was down low in the post and giving them a 6-foot-plus figure in the paint. It would have been, you could have possibly gotten to a state tournament. So now that they have that, plus everything else they have in the defense, Poland is just lighting the world on fire. They still have to play Canfield again this year. They still have to play Howland. They still have a second matchup with South Range, which is always a good matchup, no matter what the records are. Because last time they were squared up, it was a 1-point game. So big games left on Poland's schedule, but they are cruising right now in the 88. I'll tell you that much.
of those big games, Anthony, and then I want to get to the boys' side, but out of those big games you mentioned that Poland has coming up, you mentioned how not saying last year they definitely were. I wouldn't say they were one dimensional because Jackie Grisdale was like a star,
superstar.
So you have a superstar. You could go into any game and you could win it, but now they just have a plethora of weapons they could throw at you. So with the upcoming schedule, who do you see as maybe their biggest threat coming up here? Do you see them possibly stubbing their toe at all, or do you see this train just continuing to roll?
One of the things that I love about Nick Blanche is they never look ahead. There's a lot of big games on that schedule that Poland fans and us in the media can look at and say, oh, it's going to be big when Poland plays Howland. It's going to be big when Poland plays Canfield. But Poland right now is focused squarely on Jefferson on Thursday. And to them, that's their biggest matchup. And that's what they do so well. They could easily look ahead to South Range and say the next time we play them, it's going to be for the NAA championship, and we got to get ready for them. But it doesn't matter to them. They got to get ready for the Thursday matchup. But as far as your question goes, and I'm a media member, so I can't absolutely look ahead. It is my prerogative. First and foremost, that South Range game, it's probably going to be for the league. Both teams have kind of put their foot up against everybody else. So it's probably going to be for the league unless one of them has a bad night somewhere. So you'll look at that one. That's first and foremost. And then I'm excited to see them play Howland. Howland's kind of lighting the world on fire right now on the girls' side. They competed with quite possibly the Division I state champion in Akron-Hoban for about 3.5 quarters before they ran out of gas. So I'm really excited to watch them play Howland. And really, those last 2 games of the season, the last 2 games of the season have been scheduled for Poland. They play Howland, they play Canfield, they go into tournaments.
And did Howland, did they end up playing? Because I know they're 500 right now, right? Did they end up playing last night?
No, Howland was not on the schedule last night.
Okay, I didn't believe so, but I just wanted
the boys
to make
were.
sure.
The boys lost to Boardman.
Okay.
But the girls, I believe their last game, if I'm not mistaken, was the Wednesday after Christmas. The Tuesday after Christmas, the loss to Akron-Hoban.
Yeah, and you mentioned the boys, and they have fallen to 6-4 now on the season.
That was a big game for Boardman because I think they had a lot to prove. They were kind of skidding a little bit. The last performance had them lose 28-26, a very low scoring game for a boys basketball game. And they had something to prove. And Boardman went out to a very good Howland team on the road and was able to get the 18-point victory, 65 points put up on offense. So are the Spartans back? On the boys' side, I don't know. I mean, I want to see a little bit more out of them before I say like they're back to what they were. But you got to remember, this is a team that's very talented in Boardman. They opened the season on the top of our power rankings, and I wouldn't be shocked if maybe they get back on them before the season's over.
Yeah, that was a really like you said. That's a big time. That's a colossal win for those Spartans, for the program. On the boys' side, sticking with the boys and Howland, I mentioned them dropping to 6-4, but I wanted to talk about a team that's just, for the most part, they're not even like they're playing these games and it's been no contest. They've been running teams out of the gym, and that is my parents' alma mater, the Camel Memorial Red Devils.
Running. I love that you use running because running is the key word when you talk about Camel. They love to run. They love to use their speed and athleticism to run the floor, and their offense is high flying. You got to remember, Camel got 3 players that were not with their program last year, but were originally Camel players, transferred back to Camel, and really sparked this team into a new high. I mean, we look at last year. Last year they had 1 win, maybe 2 wins on the season, but a completely overhauled roster. And now they're lighting the world on fire, number 2 in our power rankings.
Yeah, number 2. And do you see like, as far as the power rankings go, do you see Camel and East Liverpool kind of going neck and neck all season and, battling it out for the number 1 and 2 spots in the power rankings? Or is there a team like a Cheney or a Springfield or a West Branch that could, work their way up?
Well, while you're talking about, let's bring up that graphic and look at the power rankings brought to you by Armidas Cucina. You look at it, and Casual Sports Podcast putting their logo up on Running Point. You guys are not on yet. Stay in your lane, bro. They'll be on from 2 to 3.
Stay in your lane.
Come on,
LeVar
man.
Ball.
Don't make me. I'm going to put the Running Point logo on the Casual Sports Podcast, boys.
This is our show.
This is our 2 hours. No, you look at the power rankings graphic here, and you're right. East Liverpool, Camel on 1 and 2, and then you look ahead, and Cheney lost last night to Cardinal Mooney. They're both on the power rankings, so that was 9 beating 3. But a team there are a couple of teams that I think can really make runs. West Branch being one of them. They have a lot of big games ahead of them. They're still undefeated. Jackson Hendershot, amazing shooter. Drew DeShields can score really well too. Springfield, I mean, they're undefeated. They have a lot of good players. Everyone knows what Springfield brings to the table. Louisville is down there. They play a lot of really good teams. So if they rattle off, they have big teams, I should say. So I think if they rattle off a couple of wins against really impressive teams, they lost by 1 to North Canton Hoover last week. I mean, this is a Louisville team that is very dangerous if they get big wins. I mean, the strength of schedule, if they get a big record, can catapult them over into the 1 spot. So
what do you make? I know they haven't played as many games this year as a lot of the other schools in our top 10 power rankings for the boys, but what do you make of the Shredders Wildcats cracking the top 10? Do you think, they really, I don't want to say that they shouldn't deserve to be there, but is there a team that's not in the top 10 that maybe you think might have at least an argument over a team like Struthers?
I think Struthers is very deserving. I'm not going to say they don't deserve to be there, but I think another reason why they are there is the respect of what they've done in the past. You talk about Struthers. Other than their tournament loss to end the season, they were undefeated last year. So in their last season and change, they're 33-3. And one of those losses is they lost to St. Vincent St. Lebron in the tournament last year. They lost to Mooney to open up the season, and then they lost to Black River on Sunday at Canfield at Cleveland, the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. So yes, they are 4-2. We haven't seen a lot of Struthers, and they've definitely lost a lot of that roster from last year. But I still think they're a very respectable team. As far as other teams that I think I wouldn't be mad if they were the 10th spot, I think there are a lot of teams that are deserving of it. Jefferson got some votes in the 10th spot. They're scoring a lot right now. Bobby Ray is lighting the world on fire. They have 2 straight games with 80-plus points, the Jefferson Falcons do. You look at a team like Fitch, who just got the win over Canfield last night by 1 point. They're sitting right there. I think Gerard could be kind of peaking it at the right time. A team that I didn't think we'd be talking about the top 10 coming into the year. Only 3 wins last season, but they have turned it around extremely well. So I think Gerard has a chance to maybe break into the Power 10. You look at some other teams. I think Boardman, they fell out, but remember they started the year at number 1. So even though they're not on this list now, they looked very impressive last night against a Howland team that is on this list. Howland sitting there at 8, and they beat Howland by 18. So we might see Boardman get back in before the end of the season.
And you just mentioned Gerard, and I wanted to kind of take that and, start another conversation, talk about another team, and that's my alma mater, the Lowville Rockets, and their boys basketball program, because they started the season with wins over Crestview and Gerard to start the season this year. And you look at it, yes, they have a loss to Heartland Christian, but that was almost just a point away from a 2-possession game. They lost by 7 there, and then they lost another white knuckler game to rival, or at least when I was in Lowville, big time rival Springfield.
Still a rival. That's a big game in the conference too.
Yeah, and they lost by 4. So they have 2 losses there, but they're 2-1, second in the conference, 6-2 overall. Lowville is for boys basketball. So I wanted to ask Anthony, I know you're the polling guy, and we talked quite a bit about polling, but what do you make of Lowville this season, the boys squad? What are your early impressions?
My early impression is simply Anthony Lucente, and the ability of him to not just work. He's not just a one-dimensional player. I mean, he's big. They use him in the post a lot, but he can ball handle. I mean, I've seen him get rebounds and just take the ball down himself. He's a very strong player, and I think their most impressive win was over Camel. They get the win over Camel, who's number 2 in our power rankings. I believe the only loss that Camel has suffered this season. It was
that was, yeah. And that I forgot. I'm glad you mentioned that, Anthony, because that was a great win. Tight 53-49. They were able to knock off.
They hold the Camel offense. It's, I think, averaging over 70 a game to 49. I mean, that was a great defensive performance. They rebounded exceptionally well. And I think one of the reasons why they were able to win that game is honestly their ability, not just Anthony Lucente, but other players as well, able to rebound and then take the ball themselves and not have to look for an outlet pass. If you're kind of slow like that against Camel's defense, they will find you and they will press you. But if you can just take the ball and go, then you can match up with their speed and their transition. So I think being able to have guys that can rebound and handle the ball immediately, guard rebounding was really well in that game for the Rockets. One of the reasons why they won. So disappointing loss to Heartland Christian, who, a really good team, but at the same time, a team that I think Lowville probably feels like they could have beat, especially when they see some of the other scores that Heartland Christian has had this year. So I think everything's in front of them. They're going to get another shot at Springfield. I still want to see them against McDonald. I still want to see them against Waterloo and some other really good teams. But I think Lowville is solid, and they're another team that we were talking could be in the bottom, 11 to 15 in these power rankings, and a couple of wins away from breaking back into it. I believe they've been on it once. I think they were 10 not too long ago. So they're right there. The Rockets are right there.
and I'm not 100% sure on this, Anthony. You can maybe back me up, but I think their next. I think they take on the Blue Devils next, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong there.
Let me look.
I thought that's what I heard, but and also I did. While you're looking that up, as we close the show today, Anthony, I did want to get into some national stuff and just pick your brain on some NFL.
Our
stuff.
schedule has Louisville at Sebring on Friday.
Okay, so they're at Sebring.
McDonald is going to play Western Reserve, Battle of Blue Devils on Friday.
Okay, so my bad there.
You're all good. That's why we have a schedule, man.
Yeah. But anyway,
we will actually have to look for that because remember that Louisville's game last night got canceled. So we don't know if Louisville's in protocol right now. We'll definitely keep everybody updated. As far as we know at the moment, Friday night is still happening, but stay tuned to YSN.
Yeah, with COVID, everything is...
Don't say that dirty word, Scotty.
Yeah, it is a very dirty word. Hopefully a much better year this year, 20.
All right, so you want to bring national into it. That means we have to hurt you and talk about the Browns a little bit, right?
Yeah, that does. I mean, I can't avoid it. DJ,
DJ rolled into you, but I won't.
He did.
Although, Scotty, for people that don't know, you kind of earned that a little bit this season. I mean, you were adamant that the Browns were going to win the Super Bowl, and DJ gave you a lot of chances to back out of the Skittle bet, and you took the Skittles. You took the Skittles, and you tasted the rainbow a little bit, and you ran with it.
I did. I was
feeling a little bullish.
Yeah, I was definitely bullish, and I think that part of me, it's like, how could I have said that it's the Browns? But the other part of me is like, I'm a fan. Like, why shouldn't I be coming off of how they played last year? Why shouldn't I, be optimistic about my team? Like, why are we playing the game then if I don't think they're gonna win? But
I think they're gonna win, and then put Skittles on them to win. That's two different things.
Yeah,
but you look at it. I mean, the Browns started the season with a matchup against Kansas City, and it was 33-29. I mean, opportunities to win that game. So obviously, reasons to feel good. I mean, even though they didn't win, that's the two-time reigning AFC champion. You go into their house, and you lose a game that you had opportunities to win. So it's like, okay, we're feeling good about ourselves. Baker played pretty well in that game, despite the down the stretch he didn't. Played pretty well until when they needed him to.
The pick down the stretch.
Like most of the season. Yeah. But then, you come back, you win week 2, right? You come back, let's see, week 3. I'm trying to remember all the results. Week 3,
they won
you
3
won week
in a
3.
row after that.
So, you come off the Chiefs loss, you win 3 in a row, you're feeling good about yourself. I mean, I get it. The Browns were in the playoffs last year, had chances to beat the Chiefs, had opportunities to beat the Chiefs, kind of probably felt like, you win that game, who knows what happens in the AFC Championship game. I think you get beat by Buffalo, but, what do you do? I mean, of course, you felt confident. 3-1, the team that made the playoffs last year, it kind of tanked after that. I don't think anyone saw the Browns not making – well, maybe some people could say, well, I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns didn't make the playoffs, but the way this season went, and after week 4, to say, well, the Browns aren't going to make the playoffs when they're 3-1, and their only loss was by 4 to Kansas City. I don't think there were a lot of people saying the Browns aren't going to make the playoffs, and that's just the way the season went.
Yeah, and just 4 wins since that 3-1 start.
Let me ask you something, because there's a lot of talk about Baker, and Twitter's nuts about him. Like, they either hate him or they're apologizing for him. How much of Baker's season do you put on the fact there was other stuff going on in Cleveland. We all know it. OBJ wanted out. He caused probably a lot of drama in that locker room. Baker Mayfield not 100% healthy. We all know that. How much do you put on that compared to just he's not matching to where he needs to be from a Browns fan?
Being a Browns fan, I put a little bit on that, but I don't want it to come off as because I don't think the injuries and the Odell stuff really, because he ended up even though he said all the right things and he said he wanted Odell back, I think after that video surfaced, he definitely wanted Odell gone. Now, that's just my opinion, just speculation. I have nothing to base that on. But if I had to, take a guess, after Odell let that video go up, and I do believe he knew about it.
I'm so lost. I don't even know what video we're talking about. I don't follow the Browns. I'm sorry.
There was a video that Odell's father put up.
Okay,
it
so
was
it
was like a compilation of plays where Odell was open and Baker didn't hit him.
So it was Odell's dad. I knew that. I thought it was another video like where Odell was talking.
My point is, he played better when Odell was off the field last year, so you can't really say the Odell thing and him being gone. I don't think that holds much weight there.
No, but what I mean,
the injury a little bit, but the way I see it, Anthony, if
you watch the games, I didn't. Was his arm strength hurts?
I don't,
because he usually has a pretty good arm.
And I don't see, to me, from what I've watched, I mean, there's been a couple balls he's short-armed, but for the most part, when he's missing, he's missed high, and he's sailing balls.
That's footwork. That's straight up footwork.
Yeah, I don't put it on the shoulder injury. I do think it's definitely affected him playing with the harness, and I think he's had to adjust, but I don't think it's to a point where, it should result in him playing as bad as he has. I don't think you could use that. And I've been a Baker apologist.
Yes, you have, Mr. Top 10 in the NFL.
Before the season, I called him a top 10 quarterback.
Yep, you had him above a lot of people.
DJ claims top 5.
I think we would have smacked you silly if you said top 5.
But no, I did say top 10. I said he could potentially.
Oh, backtracking. No. You were top 10. You were Baker top 10. You were Baker top 10. None of this on the fence. Like, oh well, he sometimes looks like it. So no. You were right in the Baker train.
I'm saying I even said he could potentially
be a top
play
5.
like a top 5, but I never said he was a top 5. But
I don't think there's been one point in Baker's career where he's played like a top 5 quarterback.
No, there hasn't.
Sometimes when he's looked like, okay, maybe he top 10. But never. I've never seen him look top 5.
Yeah. And last year, even if he wasn't top 10, I thought he was fringe top 10. I thought he was good enough to.
He won games. That's what I'll give him. He won games, and he protected the ball. Which he didn't do this year.
No, he did not.
Didn't he go like last year? Didn't he go like the last 10 games without giving up an interception?
Yeah, and I think he had a higher quarterback rating, if I'm not mistaken, at least for 1 week down the stretch there. It might have been a few weeks, like the last 3 or 4 games of the year. I think he had a higher QBR than your boy Patty even. So he showed
up. Tee out, because now you're bringing my guy into this. Like, how many times did he throw the ball? Like, come on. Because the Chiefs were making Patrick Mahomes throw the ball 40, 45 times a game. Baker's probably throwing like 25 a game. Like, let's be real. Don't be infringing on my guy. Don't be infringing on my guy.
Yeah, he did have the superior running game. I will say that, but still, I feel like they unleashed him more in the second half of last year, and he threw a lot more than he did in the first half of last season. And
Here's
he
what I'll
threw
say
with success.
About Baker last year. And I don't know what happened, because at the end of the season, he was playing well. And really, he made the plays that could have beaten the Chiefs. The only reason, that his wide receiver fumbled the ball at the goal line, but it was a great drive that would have, I forget. I don't think it would have given the lead, but it would have made it like maybe a 2-point game with the Browns getting the ball back at the second half, something like that.
And if the game played out how it played out, that would have won the Browns.
But then at the end of it, and then on the other hand, you go, well, Baker lost the second half to a backup quarterback.
Yeah. So
there's things on both sides.
And if Mahomes doesn't go down, they probably lose that game by at least a couple scores.
So where do you stand on Baker? You want Baker back next year?
I mean, I don't really see, my opinion, I think it's kind of a pipe dream. Like, fans are throwing out names like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. I just don't see anything like that happening. So I wouldn't be opposed to them, bringing them back for one more year. They already exercised his option, but they have to bring in somebody, and apparently they didn't feel like Case Keenum could do it, because I think if they did, he would have been in there a while ago. They have to bring in somebody that they feel like at his ceiling could at least compete with Baker and maybe even outplay him. Who knows? The Ravens, you don't typically see trades in the division.
But you're not looking at Lamar Jackson, are you?
No,
I was about to say, you're about to be crazy.
I was gonna say, Tyler Huntley, the backup.
I thought you were about to go nuts. I thought I was about to roll you out of this studio.
Maybe bring in somebody like him, the Ravens backup, who's shown some promise in these games. He's not as fast as Jackson, but he could still move. He's made some good throws. So I mean, they're kind of like in QB purgatory,
Kirk
as
Cousins.
I see it right now.
What do you think about that?
I would take Kirk Cousins over Baker Mayfield. Even Derek. I'm saying right now today, just because Baker's been so bad, but Derek Carr's another one. He throws a lot of picks, but he's also led the Raiders on a lot of game-winning drives, and one was against the Browns this year.
Yeah, still technically in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, and they've had a lot of chaos. Coach getting fired, top wide receiver
getting arrested
in jail. And in the midst of all that, he still has his team with the. Sure. So I would take somebody like a Derek Carr or the Ravens backup QB or Kirk Cousins, as you said. But the thing is, if they bring...
You want Jimmy G? Because I think the 49ers are about done with him.
I would take Jimmy G right now. If you're asking me right now, I mean, it looked like Baker couldn't complete a. I mean, he couldn't in this last Pittsburgh game. He couldn't complete a pass. Like it looked like he forgot how to play football.
He had 2 touchdowns.
He did,
2
but
tutties.
I think the Steelers' defense was relaxed a little bit at that.
But one of them, made it 19-14?
It did,
And then
but
you had the ball. I believe you had the ball with a chance to take the lead. I don't think the Steelers made it 26-14 before you had the ball. I feel like I'm going to go back into the game breakdown.
I don't know.
I feel like there were moments in that game where it's like, oh man, the Browns had the ball with a chance, and then it was like
we might have one possession with a chance, but I feel like it might have been when we cut it to one possession and then we needed to recover the onside kick.
So okay,
but
there was punt, turnover on. This is like alternating possession. So no one scored until the second quarter. So scoreless first. 7-0 Steelers, punt. You guys threw a pick. 10-0 punt, interception. You picked off Roethlisberger. Didn't matter. It was close to halftime. Punt, field goal made it 13-0. Punt, touchdown, 13-7. Punt, and then you had the ball. You had the ball down 13-7. And you went 16 yards and punted it from, your own 46? That's the drive right there. You need that drive, and then Steelers hit the field goal, so they're back up by 2 possessions. Punt again, another field goal. Then you guys score a touchdown, 19-14. Steelers answer 26-14, and you throw a pick. So, yeah, that one drive, 13-7, that's when you needed it. And you blew it.
Well, that's been the story all year, unfortunately, for Baker and the Browns. He had plenty of chances in this game with the ball in his hand at the end of the game to either tie or win, and he just wasn't able to get the job done. So I'm not opposed to bringing him back, and I do think his injury had something to do with it. But I just don't know, is Kirk Cousins going to want to compete with Baker Mayfield? I don't think so. Is Derek Carr going to want to do that? I don't see guys like that coming in just to compete. So I really don't know what the solution is. Unless they draft a young guy. But, Anthony, one more question I had for you. Real quick. Obviously, they're not in as good a position because they don't have home field. And last year, the Chiefs did.
Right now. Still 1 week to play, Scotty.
Yeah.
I'm holding on the hope that the Texans can beat the Titans.
Yeah, you never know. It could happen. But real quick, I just want to know from you, do you think the Chiefs are in as good a spot as they were last year to win the Super Bowl, given the parity we've seen in the NFL this year? Or do you think they were just better last season?
I think they're in a better spot to get to the Super Bowl than they were last year. Winning it, I don't know. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC, but I think the way the Chiefs have played in the last eight weeks, Bengals beat them by 3. I get it. It's weird to say that when the Bengals just won. They're in the playoffs. But I feel like the Chiefs in their defense, the way they play right now, are in a better shape to win the AFC this year than they were last year. I think there were a lot of teams last year that I was like, ooh. And the Ravens gagged and lost, and then the Bills didn't really put up a fight. But I thought last year I was much more nervous about the AFC than I am this year. So with that, we will end the show. Casual Sports Podcast coming up next. Scotty, thanks as always for joining us, and we will see you all tomorrow from 12 to 2. Maybe me and Ty back. We'll see if Ty's voice is back healthy or not.